can help, whether it's giving space to provide shelter during the winter months or just giving volunteers to work at an existing shelter. And Hearts for the Invisible is in desperate need of sleeping bags and blankets. Julia Kaufman, WCNC Charlotte.
Weather impacts everything. Stay prepared with WCNC Charlotte's Weather Impact Team.
It's a raging torrent coming down King Street right now.
Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich and the entire Weather Impact Team delivers the wind.
Brief showers overnight.
The impact.
Winds 60 miles an hour.
And what you need to stay safe and weather aware.
The water will continue to rise. There's nowhere for this water to go.
Stay aware of weather that impacts you by downloading the WCNC News app now.
Well, Charlotte's affordable housing crisis continues. Tonight, there are new concerns at the Salvation Army of Greater Charlotte. Some families there say that they are dealing with awful living conditions and it's impacting safety. WCNC Charlotte's Tradisha Woodard spoke with those families just a few hours ago. So, Tradisha, they told you they're begging for change here.
That's right, Vanessa. For many families, the Salvation Army is the only place preventing folks from living out on the streets, but they say it's also very uncomfortable and unsafe, with many kids sick for months due to some of the living conditions. What do you do when the center of hope,
as soon as you turn the corner, it's hell,
turns to a place of despair?
I'm not safe. My family's not safe.
It's a question that many families living here at the Salvation Army of Greater Charlotte can't seem to answer, while they're not willing to share their identity.
Like they're punishing you for being homeless.
They're no longer holding back on telling their story. From concerns about mold on ceilings, trash covering the floors, to safety of children around people suffering from mental illnesses.
The children are witnessing schizophrenia. A child came across a needle in the playground and they had to call the ambulance because he picked it up.
There were also some concerns about safety, with many weapons being found inside the building. They say no.
Obviously, extremely difficult day yesterday. These are never easy processes. They're never easy to execute, because you're impacting real people. Coaches, staff members, their families, and our players. Really, really difficult to deliver that kind of news to them. This is a tough business. Biff and I talked about that. It really is a tough business, and unfortunately, we just were not making the progress that I felt that we needed to make at this point, and felt we needed to make a change, and that's why we made the decision that we did. I believe that this institution, this program, deserves a championship level bowl contending program on a regular basis. I know we have a ton of work to do there. This is still a 12-year-old program, but at some point we got to start performing the way our fans want us to, and I agree with them. And so that's why we made the change. But I'm grateful to Biff and his staff, but especially Biff and how he poured himself into these young men. There is no doubt that they love him because of how he treats them and how he took care of them. And I'll forever be grateful for that. And now at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
What did you feel was maybe the characteristics about Tim that made him such a good interim to kind of take over this program for the final 2 weeks?
Yeah, look, Brew is an experienced coach. I was going to say veteran, but that might sound old, so we'll say experienced. He's been around the block, though. He has, and he's got great experience, and he's sat in the chair. He sat in the chair. He knows how to do this. He's been a part of this program, and I know he cares as well in a really strong way. He told me yesterday that it was an honor for him to be asked, and so we're really grateful to Brew for taking on that challenge.
Mike, what's the timeline for the next head coach to be named?
So I will never, ever set a deadline on a coaching search because you never know what twists and turns these things will take. But that's a fair question. I think we're dealing with some dynamics this time around that are new in a coaching search, and I've been speaking a lot to different parties who are interested in promoting candidates and the like. December 4th is the early signing day this year. Think about it. It used to be around like the 20th. And so that's like 2 weeks from now, So that accelerates the process. And people may say, well, why didn't you wait till the end of the season? Well, the end of the season would be like December 1st. Okay, and so if you've made a decision and then you really have to act on it. I think that's probably why you've seen some other schools, even in our own league, in the last week, go ahead and make that call, make that decision. You also have the dynamic of the transfer portal opening up December 9th, I believe, through the 28th. And then there's the added dynamic of the new 12-team college football playoff. So you have teams now that are loaded with quality candidates for jobs who are going to be occupied from mid-December until January the 20th, I think. So it's a very different calendar, I think, for everybody in this business to try to figure out how it's going to work. But I know for us, we have a sense of urgency because of the deadlines that I just mentioned regarding recruiting. But the most important thing is that we get it right. And so that's why I would never set, an absolute drop-dead date, because there are different things that come into play in searches. They always take twists and turns. And I'll say this again, I've said this in other searches for our fans. Do not believe everything that you hear, everything that you read, everything that you see. There's a lot of speculation and hearsay. And the reality is that, we'll work really, really hard to bring a great coach here. And when we introduce the coach, you'll know what the facts are.
Mike, there are a lot of similarities here between the Will Healy firing after homecoming, eliminated from bowl contention, and you said then if you're going to do it eventually, you should do it immediately. Is that the same type of mindset with this?
That's 100% right, Hunter. And that's what we discussed at length as a staff after the game on Saturday. We went back and met at length on Saturday night to talk through it. And really that's how we arrived at the decision, is we felt that at this point we needed to go ahead and make the decision because, well, we had actually arrived at the decision. We needed to go ahead and execute the plan to move ahead. We have a coaching search. We have recruiting deadlines around the corner, and we just think it was fairest for everybody.
Mike, last time you utilized a search firm. Will you be going the same route this time or maybe a different route?
We haven't decided yet if we're going to. We've certainly got a lot of interest and inquiries from search firms about this opportunity, and we've got great relationships with all of those people. We're hearing from agents. We're hearing from all sorts of representatives, so it's nonstop. But that should tell you something. I mean, that's good. It's still a job that's perceived in high regard with great potential, and so it's time to start realizing that potential, hire a coach who can help us deliver on that. So I'm not being coy when I say, honestly, don't know yet if we will use a search firm or not, but we have already begun the search as a team.
Jeremy? Mike, you scored 55 against ECU a little over a month ago. It seemed like the program turned the corner there. What did you see or not see between then to now that led you to this decision?
That was certainly the peak performance of this football team, and I would argue maybe even of our program. It was an incredible day, a packed house in front of against ECU on national television, and we just played a fantastic football game. I hate to say this, but unfortunately, in the context of the season, that it looks more and more like an outlier. We see, more of the consistent performance has been inconsistent, if that makes any sense. And so we've been in several games, particularly recently, where it was close at the half, and then we got boat raced in the second half. And I say recently, that also happened in the opener, against James Madison. So, look, make no mistake, too, I recognize we had a really tough schedule this year. Non-conference was difficult with JMU, and naturally, Indiana has like the greatest team in the history of Indiana the year we play them. That's the rub of the green, right? So, but I think that, overall, that was really the concern, is that ended up being more of an outlier than what we were actually performing at week in and week out.
Two-part question. When you think about this next hire, what are some characteristics you're going to look for in that individual? And second part, Charlotte's Mount Rushmore, guys like Alex Highsmith, Ferry Ogunjobi, Chris Reynolds, are those people that you would consider leaning on in a search as important as this one?
I'll answer the second question first. Absolutely. Honestly, in the past, I have engaged some of our former players because their perspective is fantastic, and they also really love and care about this place. I've not spoken to them yet, but certainly expect to at some point connect with them. I think anytime we can get great minds, great football minds who love Charlotte and this program, there's value to that. In terms of the qualities, we're looking first and foremost somebody who's a person of integrity. That matters a lot here on this campus, someone who really wants to be here at Charlotte. That sounds obvious to people, but you'd be surprised. There are coaches who are just looking for the HC title, but don't really care where it is. And I think it's hard if you don't have a passion for the opportunity and the place to succeed. And so that'll be a major point for us. Someone who's a proven track record of coaching at the collegiate level, and someone who is also a proven recruiter and developer of talent. That's going to be, I think, essential as we look at candidates. And then in today's age, you've got to understand the landscape of college football and recruiting and building a roster. I mean, you think about the last 2 years, we've had about 120 players over the course of the last 2 years, I believe. 71 new players this year. That's a lot of turnover, right? But the reality is you're going to have more turnover now each year than you used to because of the portal. And so someone who is equipped really to manage that and to deal with that, at the same time has the ability to maybe build a roster that we can have some hope of keeping together for more than a year at a time. We build some continuity. It's really difficult, I think, to have success and build a team when you have, 50 to 75 new faces every single year. And that's the challenge that we have in front of us, again, because we've got to build a roster, but at the same time, build some continuity. So those are all really important factors. I would also say someone who is a great communicator, not just with their team and with their staff, but also with the institution and with the community at large. Someone who would embrace the Charlotte community and our university. These are all things that we're seeking in a new head football coach.
You brought up agents reaching out, interested candidates. What do you feel that this program in this city really has to offer any potential future coaches?
Well, I think, people see it across the country. First of all, just the quality of the institution and the community. This is a city that is on the rise. I think about 130 new people move to Charlotte a day. We've got record enrollment again on this campus, 31,100 students. So Research One University now, which is a major designation, we're 81st in the public rankings for institutions, up about 50 spots in 2 years. There's so much happening here as an institution. And then you look athletically, we joined this new league, the American, and we won 6 conference titles over 5 sports in our first year, which tied for the most of anybody in the league, SMU, and of course they left to go to the ACC. And so we've demonstrated in multiple sports that we can be a championship level program. We've got to demonstrate it in football, and I get that, right? That is critical to us. But I think that our candidates and our prospective candidates who look at this opportunity see that, and they see, wow, what is happening in Charlotte? They're winning a lot in a lot of sports. What a great recruiting territory, what a great quality of life, what a great area to build a program. And the institution, I think, more than anything, really sells itself.
Scott?
Why do you think it's been so hard historically to win here? Why is it? What are the big challenges, do you think, winning at Charlotte?
I think one of the biggest issues is if you were to start over at day one, this is not the path that you would build to have success, right? You would not establish yourself as an FCS program and then in 2 years move to Conference USA and then a few years later move to the American, which is the premier conference in the group of 5. But I'm not being critical of those decisions. They had to happen. Like, I wasn't here for the CUSA decision. It was the right one. I was here and played a big role with our staff and our chancellor in the American invitation. Absolutely the right move for this program. But we're growing up faster than really most programs should be. I would challenge most people, if you looked at where some of the great programs that are 125 years old, what do they look like in their 12th football season? I think they probably don't look like where they are today. And so, for us, I've used this analogy, we're 12 years old. And it's like being a 12-year-old boy saying, I want to be a 25-year-old man. Well, it doesn't just happen. Like, you got to go through growth steps and stages, to get there. And we're going to get there. I mean, we're definitely still on a much faster track than normal. But I do believe that is a big piece of it, is we have tried to elevate our program and accelerate our growth at a speed that is not common.
Just talked about the institution, the stadium expansion, expedited growth. What's the timeline? I don't want to put you into a box here, but what's your timeline if the growth is happening? Where are you trying to see this team be in 2-3 years?
Yeah, look, right now my focus is hiring the best possible head football coach that we can to lead this program and get us where we want to go. You ask any head coach we've hired here, and we've hired a bunch of really good ones. And I also inherited some great ones, right? Kevin Langen, congrats to him, by the way, on their 2nd straight American Conference championship. But I think, in the end, when you start establishing hard and fast deadlines and timelines on coaches and win number expectations, that puts pressure on coaches that they have enough pressure they put on themselves. And they don't need to hear that from me. So I'm not going to articulate that. I know that, listen, Biff would tell you this. I'm going to speak for Biff for a second, because he said this at his opening press conference. He said, I want to win now. Time is the enemy of all deals. And he's right. Of course we all want to win now. But, fast forward a year later, and it's like, maybe we overpromised there a little bit, right? And he told me that after the season last year, overpromised, right? And so, and I agree with that. You want to be confident as a program, and to say, yeah, we're going to accomplish these things, and we're going to win at a high level, and it's coming fast. But there are too many variables at play right now to be able to actually set a hard and fast sort of timeline on that. But to answer your question, do we have a sense of urgency? You're damn right we do.
Mike, you've hired a couple of, I would say, CEO types, and Will, and then Biff. When you think of this third swing at it, do you go the traditional X's and O's route, or where does your mind go when you think of that next person?
I go into every coaching search, not, again, sort of like the timeline. I'm not going to box ourselves in and say we will not hire this person or this type or this type or this type. But if you're asking me, am I predisposed right now to certain qualities? Yeah, I think that I'm really looking for somebody who maybe has an expertise on one side of the ball or the other, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side. Somebody who has, I think, some cachet and respect in college football coaching circles, who's really sort of thrived in whatever role they may be in, whether they're a coordinator or whether they're a current head coach or what have you. So I think that's fair to say. Now, listen, as a head football coach, you have to have some CEO qualities, because you are running an organization that has, 105 players coming up, right? And, dozens of staff members. So you are a CEO, right? But I think that we want to make sure that the next person that we hire, also, brings that to the table in terms of that college football coaching pedigree.
Do you consider, with this NIL landscape, a GM in this process?
We've talked a lot about GMs here, and GMs are interesting because at the professional level, the hierarchy is that you hire the GM above the coach, right? And I don't see that model occurring here. We've talked about it in basketball as well. In the end, you're really talking about roster management and resource allocation, and we sort of have that right now. It's just not called GM, right? And so, but yeah, I think the new head coach is going to have to take a look at that and establish what are the key positions they want to have on the staff to be able to manage a modern-day college football operation. And those are all realistic. Those are all real questions. But it would be, if it were a GM, it's not a GM that supersedes the head coach, right? So it's really more player personnel, roster management type of position.
Mike, when it comes to hiring the next candidate, whoever that may be, what are boxes that you want to see checked as he or she progresses through the first season and the second season, so they aren't terminated after a season and a little over a half like Biff? Because as a coach coming in, that can be a good feeling to know that, hey, the last coach got axed after just over a season and a half.
Yeah, look, I understand that. Coaches look at programs and they say, well, what's the turnover rate and what's going on? And I understand that. I can also tell you, based on the interest in the job, we're going to be fine. We're going to get we have some great candidates already, and we just got started, a few hours ago. So in terms of, boxes to check, again, I think someone who understands the current landscape, understands how to manage today's environment with the transfer portal, et cetera, the post-house settlement world that we're all careening towards here, July 1. Somebody who understands, one side of the ball or the other, who's really maybe considered an expert in that space, who has a proven track record of success as a college football coach, and extended enough that we would feel confident to say, there's a trend here. Someone who is a proven recruiter and a developer of talent. And as I said earlier, someone who really wants to be here, who's going to embrace this university and embrace our community, because we're going to need this university and this community to get where we want to go. I think one of the cool things about this job that's attractive to candidates is that they see, despite maybe our lack of on-field success, that place out there is packed almost every game. I mean, we're at 107% capacity, for the first 4 games, and the last game we were right under capacity. Okay, so that's impressive, and that speaks volumes about our fans. Our fans are incredible. Our students are amazing. Our fans, our donor support. So we're really proud of what we have to sell and offer here. And I think that, again, that's why the phones are ringing off the hook, the email box is blowing up, and, you know, I'll sleep next week.
Like when you talk about the coach that you get next wanting to be here, that, to my brain, it trends towards someone who's been around the game a long time and has got a lot of experience, and the longevity piece of them staying at Charlotte, not looking to jump to the next job. Because a lot of folks want to get to the Power Four, get to the, you know, the playoff situation, all that stuff. How do you factor that portion of it in as you're looking at candidates where you want someone to say, yeah, I could be here for 5, 10, 15, whatever?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, look, Mike, I would love to hire a football coach who has a high level of success and stays here for 2 decades. You know, but really, more so, I want to hire a football coach that in a couple, 3 years is coveted by everybody else. And if we lose them, okay, we'll fight to try to keep them, but it means we're having success. That's the real key, is we want to hire somebody who can come in and build a program and have success. And if we can sustain continuity with that same person over a decade or 2, that would be, in my mind, really an added bonus. I think it's hard, though, if you hire a coach who already has 1 foot out the door to the next job. And I think that's really the point you're trying to make, is, you know, you have some coaches who see it as a stepping stone. And, you know, if you don't pay attention to the job that you have, you're not going to have success in that job. So let's want to be here. Let's grow where our feet are planted and have success here. And then whatever comes down the road comes down the road. I mean, we see what happened when our softball program, we hired Ashley Chastain, took over a program that had never been in the NCAA tournament. You know, 5 years later, we go back-to-back conference champions, and, you know, tried like heck to keep her. I had to fight others off for 2 years. She finally left to go to South Carolina, her alma mater. Okay, I get that, you know, SEC. But that's where I want to see us be in football.
Mike, do you expect Tim to be, obviously, I would assume there's interest there, but is this a possibility that this job could be his next time we see him?
Brew has expressed to me that he has an interest in this, and so I can assure you that we'll have a chance to sit down, you know, after the season and visit about the opportunity.
Mike, I asked Coach in here Saturday night, you were in the room, to grade himself, and it seemed like he knew the writing was on the wall a little bit about this being a possibility. Was that a frustrating conversation on his end when you broke the news to him, or how did that conversation go down?
Those are really hard conversations. It's obviously the hardest to hear it and be the recipient of it. It's second hardest to deliver it. And I was really, I told him this afterwards, it was really a master class in grace and humility and thankfulness for the opportunity. That's really how he responded in the room. And he told me, I could tell he was not surprised. You know, I think he understood after Saturday night's performance that maybe this was a possibility, you know. And so, no, it was a conversation that was, you know, authentic, and I appreciated it.
What did Biff say to the players? I mean, obviously there's, like you mentioned, there's a lot of love there, but what was his message to the players?
So I left the room. I addressed the team with Reagan Hill, and then I exited to give Biff a chance to be able to address his guys, you know, without the guy who fired him standing over his shoulder, you know. So, but by all accounts, it was he did a good job with them, and it was really well received by them. And listen, I'm proud of our guys. I know that there's a lot of frustration, and for some there's anger and hurt feelings, and that's a part of this, unfortunately. But they were poised. When I met with them, they were respectful, and I think that speaks volumes about their character.
Anything else?
All right, thank you.
Okay. Tremendous empathy for Coach Poggi. Great thanks to him for the man he is, for the job, for the heart and soul that he poured into this program here at Charlotte. I've been coaching a long time. I've coached at every level. I don't know that I've ever been around a man who, again, imparted more of his passion and his energy, and it's just this, again, like I said, heart and soul into his players. And it was a real pleasure for me to be part of him. I was a part of his staff. I was that guy. I was the head football coach at the University of Minnesota, and I had a conversation with the athletic director that didn't go my way, and so I totally understand. We know what we sign up for when we get involved in this profession, and I'm excited to be the interim coach here at Charlotte. We had a great practice today, tremendous energy. The commitment to win the last 2 games of this season is real. It's tremendous, and again, it's testimony to Biff for the type of culture he's built here at Charlotte. These kids, man, they're hurt, but you know what? They know that we've got work to do. We've got 2 games to go win, and we're going to pour everything into our preparation. We're going to do everything that we can possibly do to honor Coach Poggi by winning the last 2 games of the season. And we're just going to dedicate the process as we move forward to him, and again, show him thanks for everything he's done. And again, for me, from my perspective, it is an honor. It is an honor for me to step in to this program. I think that my experience will certainly be of great value as we finish up this season. Questions?
Coach, when I talked to you and the tight ends throughout the year, they really commented on your ability to kind of be a chameleon as a coach, to adjust to play styles, personalities. How do you think that's really going to help you in these last couple weeks as, assuming the role you are?
I'm a relationship guy. I love, sitting down and getting to know these kids. And Biff, again, like I said, did such a great job with these young men. And I have really taken the time. I want like every single day, I want every player to feel me and feel my investment, into what we're trying to accomplish. I've been part of a national championship. I've been part of the National Football League, and I'm at Charlotte, and I couldn't be more excited. I couldn't be more excited. I think this is it's a great university. It's a great place. I think the potential here is enormous. And however the process works as it moves forward, it'll be a real pleasure for somebody to be the head football coach at Charlotte.
Is that a role that you would like to assume?
I would love the opportunity. I think this is, again, like I said, I'm very, very positive about what you can accomplish here. I was 14 years with Mac Brown, 11 of them in Chapel Hill, and so I certainly have tremendous knowledge and understanding. I think I've probably been in every high school in the state of North Carolina at some point or another, and I just think that there's tremendous possibilities, and the things that this job offers are real.
Coach, I know you grew up in Phillipsburg, played tight end at Illinois. What was it about coaching that really started to make it, once you started to cut your teeth, a high school coach and then become a college coach to make the NFL, and just sitting here at Charlotte?
Right. I played football for a long time, and if you can't play football, the next best thing is to coach football. And I knew immediately. I was bouncing around the NFL as a player trying to make it, and I never really made it. 3 different teams, and I just said, I was with the Indianapolis Colts, and I said, I'm ready to coach. I'm ready to do, I think, what I'm going to do best. I think I'm a better coach than I was player, and so. But my passion for developing, we talked about developing, we talked about, my love for the game of football. And one of my favorite sayings is this, is if you love football, football will love you back. And football has been amazing to me and my family. And I'm a very blessed guy. And like I said, I wake up. There's a lot of people that wake up in the morning and they're not real fired up about what they're going to do that day, what their job is, golly, I love what I do. I mean, I get out of bed at 4:30 in the morning and I'm ready to rock. I mean, it just, like I said, I'm very, very fortunate that I have something that, I've done for a long time, and nothing has diminished. I'm as fired up today as I was when I was at Lafayette Central Catholic High School in Lafayette, Indiana. I had 23 on my varsity football team. There was 97 students in 4 grades, and so, and I loved it there. I had a nun who sat in my class and, critiqued me all the time, and I said, I'm trying to win football games. I want to see your lesson plan. Okay.
Could you talk a little bit about that team meeting last night, maybe what was said and what the reaction was among players?
Yeah, it was, as you would expect, very, very emotional. Just like I said, Coach Biff is just such an amazing presence, and again, the love. He's a man who does not shy away from telling his team how much he loves them, and this football team loved him back, and so, without a doubt, there was tremendous passion for him and like I said, empathy for him because he was hurt. He was hurt by this, and there's nobody that understands more than I of how he felt about it. But make no mistake about it, those players they were hurt.
Last 2 stops have been at 2 schools that have used the transfer portal more than anyone, with Dion at Colorado, with Biff here. What have you learned from both of those stops, and how do you use that moving forward for a program like this?
I think there's a fine line there when we talk about player development, when we talk about portal recruiting. I think that, portal recruiting is here to stay, but I look at portal recruiting as you have an immediate hole to fill. But I still believe to build the type of program that you're going to need to sustain success, okay, you're going to have to recruit high school kids. And I think that phase of development is vitally important to your program. And with portal guys, they come and they go, and it's our teams, it's funny, it's become so very transient. Guys shortstop here, going there. I mean, it was very enlightening to me, the process with Coach Prime at Colorado, and then we obviously did a fair amount of portal recruiting here, and we were able to help our football team in some areas where we needed help. But make no mistake about it, we've got to, player development is essential to the success of any big-time program in America. And if you're going to win championships, you're going to have a large part, to me, of your program that's based with high school kids that are developing through your process.
Coach, you brought up development. You guys still have 2 games left. What do you feel like the opportunity is ahead for these players in these last 2 games as far as development goes, improving themselves?
No question about it. It's, the disappointing thing about not losing the game last week and not having an opportunity to go to a bowl game is those 15 practices that you get for being a bowl eligible team, for going to a bowl game. And golly, we needed those 15 days. We needed those 15 practices so we don't get them, okay? We got 2 games, okay, to play our hearts out, pour every ounce of what we got into our preparation, and we will. This football team will expect to win the last 2 games. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And we've got some really talented young guys that are going to continue to grow. You know, Purdy is a guy that I'm just going to tell you, he's as talented a young quarterback as there is in America today. He is gifted. I've been around all of them. I've been around the best ones. He's got everything that it takes to be an elite level quarterback. And again, him getting 2 more games and overall just the team getting 2 more opportunities to play together and honor our outgoing head coach, Coach Poggi. You know, it's going to be exciting. I'm just telling you, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to lead the country in enjoying the moment on Saturday coming up, and then the following home game. We're going to have some fun. There's no doubt about that.
You brought up embracing Deshaun. You know, he broke a couple of the huddles today at practice. What do you think these last 2 games can really show about who he is as a leader?
Right. And what I wanted to do today, I want to empower him. I want to empower him. I want him to feel like Superman. And because he's a, like I said, so gifted, and he's got to understand that he is our leader. He's the leader of this football team. He's a young leader. He's a 17-year-old leader, or 18-year-old leader, whatever he is. But I want, while I'm here, we're going to ride with Purdy. And I just think that, guys like him can really take this program to places that it hasn't been.
As you prepare for this week's game, and you talked about the emotions of Biff leaving and the care that everybody had for him and he had for them, how do you channel that emotion into the game plan? Because we're still talking about 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, and the emotions get off the charts and they get away from the game plan.
That's right. And I think that's where my experience as a coach and as a leader of men will help us stay focused, keep the main thing. Be where your feet are. Stay locked in, stay laser focused on exactly what, and making sure that you detail the game plan so that they know exactly what we need to do to be successful. And I think that's another area which we'll really, work towards this week as we get into it. But I thought that today we had, with everything that's flying around us and everything that's going on, I thought today that their focus, their attention to detail was just excellent. Their demeanor was excellent. And I'm an upbeat, positive guy. One thing we're going to do now, I'm going to bring energy. And whatever the circumstances may be, it's going to be positive energy. Those kids, they're going to follow my lead. They're going to follow our lead as coaches. And so I'm going to see to it that we do our job as coaches to make sure that we're leading in the proper way.
Anything
And I do have one. And
sure.
We haven't really talked about Saturday and a game plan and what you see from them. And I don't even know that with the events of the last 24 hours that you've had a chance to even look at that kind of tape. But where do you guys stand in prepping for FAU?
We feel really good about our preparation. We've broken down at least 6 of their games this season, and so normally we do 4 and we put it in the computer, and so we feel good. It's an interesting. Tom Herman's one of my best friends. Tom was the offensive GA for us when I coached at the University of Texas. And so it's funny, yesterday afternoon, we're texting back and forth, and I told him, I said, I'm sorry, that what happened with you at Florida Atlantic, and And then I get a text from him last night saying, well, I'll be, Brew. Now you're the head coach at Charlotte, so anyhow, we'll have a great idea. We feel really good about our scouting of Florida Atlantic. Their defensive coordinator, who was there, then left. Now he's back. Okay, so I think we've got a good feel for what he wants to do, what he likes to do, and so we'll have our guys ready to roll.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.